I spent most of my teenage years living abroad because my parents worked in the United Arab Emirates. Abu Dhabi was where I studied and grew up, and anyone who has lived there knows how strange and particular life in that environment can feel. For those who have never been, I will say only this. The country has its own social rules and stereotypes, and you absorb them whether you want to or not. Everyone learns to identify people within seconds based on how they dress, what language they speak, and what kind of jobs they might have. It's not necessarily a healthy way to think, but when you grow up in that context, it becomes something instinctive. This particular story happened when I was about 15 or 16 years old. It was the weekend, early in the afternoon, and I was supposed to meet some friends at one of the malls. As usual, I arrived before everyone else. I didn't mind too much because I thought I'd use the time to walk around and kill time, maybe browse a few shops. Back then, I wasn't exactly in good shape, so walking around a mall wasn't a bad thing for me. I was going up one of the escalators when, on the opposite one going down, I noticed a group of men for the first time. There were 5 of them, all dressed in a similar way, with simple clothes that screamed laborer. As soon as my eyes landed on them, one of the men looked directly at me. It wasn't the empty stare of someone spacing out. It was sharper, deliberate, almost as if he were evaluating me. I tried to brush it off, but part of me couldn't shake the unease. When I reached the top, I turned left and kept walking, but something made me glance over my shoulder. To my surprise, those same 5 men had gotten on the escalator again, this time coming up behind me. That's when the nervous little voice in my head kicked in. I kept telling myself I was probably overreacting. After all, it was broad daylight in a public place. What could they really do in a crowded shopping mall? Even so, I didn't like that they were keeping their eyes fixed on me. The mall had a balcony-style design. The 2nd and 3rd floors formed the rings around the central open space, so I decided to test them. I walked calmly along the railing, pretending to admire the view. Every time I reached a corner, I'd take a quick look to see where they were. And yes, every time I checked, they were still behind me, tracing the same path, their gaze locked in my direction. That unpleasant confirmation ran through my body. It wasn't a coincidence. By that point, I was sweating under my t-shirt and looking for a way to throw them off. Then I had an idea. In that mall, there was a bookstore called Magrudy's. It wasn't the kind of place where you'd expect to see that type of people, especially because most of them came from humble backgrounds and probably weren't there to flip through novels. I thought that if I slipped inside and got lost in the aisles, I would either lose them or, in the worst case, finally confirm that they really were following me. I slid inside and went straight to the back of the store, from where I could watch the entrance. At first, it seemed like the plan was working. I felt a wave of relief as I pretended to read the spines of the books. But just as I started to relax, my stomach dropped. The 5 men walked into the bookstore one after another, without even glancing at the shelves. They weren't there to read, they were there for me. I crouched a little and zigzagged between the aisles, trying to stay low so they wouldn't see me. My heart was pounding, and I remember clutching some random book as if it could protect me. The way they moved made everything clear. They were tracking, peeking down each row, pretending to browse but scanning anyone who was crouched or hiding. It was all the proof I needed. They weren't just some curious strangers. I managed to loop around without them seeing me and slipped out of the store as fast as I could. From there, I took the same escalator down to the ground floor. My only thought was to get closer to the entrance, where there were security guards and more people. Halfway down, I risked a glance upward and saw them coming out of the bookstore again. Our eyes met, and there was no room left for doubt. They clearly intended to keep following me. And then, as if by miracle, my friends walked in through the main doors just as I was reaching the bottom of the escalator. I had never felt so relieved. The timing couldn't have been better. We met up, and I didn't even tell them what had just happened. I think I was in a sort of shock, not knowing how to explain it without sounding paranoid. We carried on with our day, laughing and eating as if nothing had happened. But I will never forget the expression on those men's faces when I saw them again. Later on, while my friends and I were going up that same escalator, the group of 5 was going down the opposite one. They saw me now surrounded by people, and something in their faces changed, almost like disappointment or frustration at having lost their chance. I didn't know what they had in mind, and I'm glad I never found out. Over time, I still get goosebumps when I remember it. Today I can laugh a little about my bookstore spy tactic, but deep down I know that I was in real danger that day. If my friends hadn't shown up when they did, I don't even want to